Using an Asoke to sew, generally you will need to be careful. So if you need to add an interface because when it exposed to heat, it shrinks. I used the Asoke to make an eyelet channel for a corset. So I have added the interface to it already and I brought in the pattern for the eyelet channel. I'm using about 1 inch all the way around. Usually I'll use half inch, but because I'm dealing with an Asoke, if I use half inch, by the time you're done sewing and ironing, it might shrink and you'll be struggling with the stitching allowance. So just to be on the safe side, I added 1 inch all the way around and I notched the part I know will be for the attachment to the top. So now I'm done cutting it. So note the part that I will need to stitch, okay? Now I marked on this pattern the arrows that will go in that I will attach to the top just for ease, okay? So this part I am using half inch to sew. Yes, I added 1 inch, but I'm using half inch to sew. Remember the 1 inch was just for being careful. So I marked the top on the Ashoke, the part that will go top because sometimes these things can be confusing, all right? Just so I'll be careful about this, I marked that arrow and I'm turning it right side out for the both sides, okay? So this is an eyelet channel. It will have to be for both sides of the back panel, okay? So now I'm turning it inside out like this so I will know the part I am top stitching and that's the part I'm marking with this chalk. So now I will open it again and I will top stitch on that part I marked for both of them. You make sure you're top stitching on the parts you marked so there will be no mistakes. After stop stitching it, I'll give it a good press and this is what it looks like. So I'll give it a good press, alright, and the next thing I want to sew the boning on them. Now the first boning will be ridgeline boning and I'll reinforce it with plastic boning. So first of all is original boning is about half inch. And like I said, I like using lighter to make the edges blunt. So I'll sew this down. And because I need to make it exactly the length of the channel pattern, I measured about 13 1/4 inches. So note the way I sew it, I left about 1 inch at the top there and the down part as well. So I'm sewing it on both sides, okay, and then this is the second one. You have to make the second one the same as the first one, the same length as the first one, okay, and I'll be making 3 of this ridgeline boning. So now after sewing the third one, we'll have about 1.5 inch, exactly the width for the eyelet channel, okay? So we can now give it a good press, all right? And I'll do the same thing to the other side. So after ironing it flat, see the allowance that we still have left, it's okay, okay? Just so that we'll be on the right side. I mean, just so be careful about it. So for me, it's better you trim out the excess than fall short of a stitching allowance. So I'll blunt the plastic boning and now I'm just reinforcing the first and the third one. So that middle one will be where the eyelets will come in. So after that, I'll flip it over on the wrong side and I'll stitch it along the length of this boning. Now remember the length of the boning is the length of the eyelet channel we are working with. So I'll sew it out and whatever excess I have left, I'll trim out and leave about half inch. okay? And then not the way I flipped it, to the wrong side. So I'll sew the top and the down, okay? Making sure of the length of the eyelet channel, 13 1/4 inch. So I'll sew it just at the edge of this boning. So we are closing the top and the bottom of this channel, this eyelet channel. Trim out the excess that you have and leave about 1/2 inch. So now I'll pin it down, okay? Just so I'll measure out whatever allowance that I need. So at this point, I'll be using 1/2 inch, and then I mark the 1/2 inch from the bottom to the top, okay? And then I will cut out the excess. Removing the pins, I will turn it to the right side. Turning it inside out like this, and make sure all the edges comes out well for the top and the bottom. Then I'll take it to the ironing board and give it a good press. After ironing it, I'll iron in this 1/2 inch that we marked for the stitching allowance. And this is what it looks like. So I'll simply bring in the corset at this point. I'll simply stitch the main fabric and the lining together, and then clean the edges. Cleaning the edges is simply trimming out the rough parts, okay? And then I'll tuck it in between this eyelet channel. Now remember, the eyelet channel, the part that is going into the blouse is still open. So I will tuck it in with 1/2 inch, pin it down. This is just for easy stitching, okay? So I'll stitch it down, make sure the down part and the up part aligns with the length of the eyelet channel, and of course we're working with the same length, okay? So I'll tuck it in and pin it and then stitch it. So make sure the back part of it is okay, and then I would like to flip it to the side. Now, not the way I'm sewing it. This way I am more comfortable, okay? So I'll stitch it down from the bottom to the top part. And this is what it looks like. Now for the highlights, I'll have to mark this about 1.5 inches apart. Now from the top there, I leave about 1/2 inch, okay? So I'll mark it 1.5 inches interval and to the last part, okay? And then I will plug in the soldering iron. Now the soldering iron will make it easy for me to make holes. Now the holes I am making on the middle channel. Now remember, the middle channel, we didn't add the plastic boning to it. The plastic boning was just for the first and the third. So the middle panel there, you can tell the difference is the one, like, it's looking like indented, okay? That's because we didn't add the plastic boning. And this is the soldering iron. I use it to make these holes, and then I'll bring in the eyelet, okay? Make sure it goes into the hole, all right? And then bring in this other ring part, not the rough part and the smooth part. The rough part will give the client discomfort, so you have to turn the rough part down so that the smooth part will face up, okay? And then you use your strength to just press this down. After pressing it down, Just the way I made it with the soldering iron, after making holes so that it will not get hardened, I'll quickly bring in the eyelet. That's how I made it. So for each of the hole, I've already added the eyelet. I only needed to bring in the ring part, press it down, and our eyelet is ready. This is it. And this is our corset. So if you find value in this tutorial, give me a thumbs up, comment and share. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next